A nation that once fought tooth and nail against China has now opened its doors to a new chapter. Vietnam has accepted China's offer. But what exactly was offered? And what are the consequences of this decision? The answer could shake the South China Sea, disrupt alliances, and ignite a silent power struggle across Asia. This isn't just about trade. It's not just politics. It's a turning point with global implications. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because the truth may shock you. Now, let's break it down. Vietnam and China, a complicated history. The relationship between Vietnam and China is far from a simple neighborly connection. It is a deeply layered tapestry woven with threads of shared culture, intertwined destinies, and, significantly, centuries of conflict and resistance. Their shared border is not just a line on a map, but a frontier that has witnessed the ebb and flow of empires, the rise and fall of dynasties, and the painful realities of modern warfare. From the earliest days of Vietnamese nationhood, the shadow of its powerful northern neighbor has loomed large, marked by periods of Chinese domination and fierce Vietnamese struggles for independence. Ancient dynastic rivalries saw Vietnamese kingdoms repeatedly pushing back against Chinese imperial ambitions, forging a strong sense of national identity rooted in resistance. This historical pattern of conflict continued into the modern era, culminating in the bloody and deeply impactful 1979 border war. This brief but brutal conflict, erupting after Vietnam's invasion of Cambodia, left deep scars on the political psyche of both nations, fueling mutual suspicion and resentment that lingered for decades. The memory of this war, with its heavy casualties and lasting geopolitical consequences, remains a sensitive point in the collective memory of both Vietnamese and Chinese societies. Against this backdrop of a long and often turbulent past, marked by repeated clashes and a strong Vietnamese tradition of resisting Chinese influence, the recent acceptance of an offer from Beijing by Hanoi is a development that carries significant weight and raises profound questions about the future trajectory of their relationship and the broader regional order. It is a decision that seemingly flies in the face of historical precedent, prompting both intrigue and apprehension. What did China offer Vietnam? While the precise details of the discussions remain confidential, credible sources suggest that China's offer to Vietnam is substantial, primarily centered around massive infrastructure investments under the umbrella of its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative. This likely includes the development of crucial transportation links, such as high-speed railways designed to connect the Vietnamese capital of Hanoi with Kunming, the capital of China's Yunnan province, facilitating trade and travel across their shared border. The offer also reportedly encompasses the establishment of high-tech economic zones within Vietnam, funded by significant infusions of Chinese capital, aimed at fostering technological innovation and boosting Vietnam's manufacturing capabilities. These zones could potentially attract Chinese companies seeking to diversify their production bases and tap into Vietnam's growing workforce. However, the most significant and potentially controversial element of China's offer is believed to be the prospect of joint energy exploration ventures in the disputed areas of the South China Sea. This is a particularly sensitive issue, as both Vietnam and China have overlapping and often conflicting claims to various islands, reefs, and exclusive economic zones in this strategically vital waterway. By proposing joint exploration in these contested waters, China is effectively inviting Vietnam to cooperate in an area that has been a major source of tension and a point of fierce nationalistic assertion for Hanoi. This move signals a potentially seismic shift in Vietnam's strategic calculus, suggesting a willingness to engage with China in a manner that could be interpreted as a softening of its long-held stance on sovereignty in the South China Sea, a development with potentially far-reaching implications for regional stability and the claims of other littoral states. Why Vietnam said yes? Vietnam's decision to accept China's offer, despite their complicated history and ongoing tensions in the South China Sea, is likely driven by a pragmatic assessment of its current economic and strategic needs. The Vietnamese economy has experienced impressive growth in recent years, positioning it as one of the most dynamic in Southeast Asia. However, this rapid expansion has created pressing demands for essential resources such as fuel and energy, as well as the need for significant upgrades to its technology and infrastructure. While Vietnam has actively sought investment and partnerships from Western nations, these engagements have sometimes been characterized by caution and conditions related to governance and human rights, which may not always align with Hanoi's priorities or timelines. China, on the other hand, offers a compelling alternative. Speed in delivering large-scale projects, readily available capital for investment, and a seemingly pragmatic approach to economic cooperation, often without the overt political lectures or stringent conditions that sometimes accompany Western engagement. Furthermore, in the context of escalating tensions between the United States and China, Vietnam may perceive an opportunity to strategically position itself to extract maximum value by engaging with both powers rather than aligning exclusively with one. By cooperating with China on economic and potentially other fronts, Vietnam might believe it can secure crucial resources and infrastructure development while simultaneously maintaining its relationships with Western partners. However, beneath this veneer of pragmatism lies a potential risk: the possibility that Vietnam, in its pursuit of short-term economic gains, may inadvertently be trading away elements of its long-term independence and strategic autonomy, a gamble that could have significant repercussions down the line. The South China Sea, the real battleground. For decades, the South China Sea has served as a critical maritime arena where Vietnam has tenaciously defended its territorial and sovereign claims. The Paracel and Spratly Islands in particular have become powerful symbols of Vietnamese national pride, representing both historical claims and the pain of past losses. Vietnam has consistently asserted its rights in these waters, often finding itself in direct confrontation with China's increasingly assertive maritime actions. China's deployment of its expansive maritime militia, the construction of artificial islands equipped with military facilities, and the regular patrols of its naval and Coast Guard vessels have frequently led to tense standoffs and clashes with Vietnamese fishing boats and Coast Guard units operating in the disputed areas. Now, the prospect of a cooperative energy exploration deal between Hanoi and Beijing in these very contested waters introduces a significant new dynamic. Such an agreement could potentially blur the long-established lines of sovereignty and raise complex legal and political questions about the future status of these areas. Critics and observers are left to ponder whether Vietnam's willingness to engage in joint exploration represents a tacit concession on its territorial claims, a pragmatic step towards de-escalating tensions, or perhaps part of a more intricate and long-term strategic game aimed at managing its relationship with its powerful neighbor while still safeguarding its core interests. The implications of this development for the future of the South China Sea dispute and the broader regional security architecture are profound and warrant close scrutiny. Military implications. A silent shift? While the announced agreement between Vietnam and China primarily focuses on economic cooperation, its potential military implications cannot be overlooked. Although no formal military pact has been publicly declared, this newfound willingness to engage on sensitive issues like joint energy exploration could open the door to deeper security-related discussions between the two nations. For instance, China might seek to gain access to Vietnamese ports for resupply missions for its naval vessels operating in the South China Sea or the broader Indian Ocean, a development that would significantly enhance its maritime reach in the region. Furthermore, cooperation in areas such as cyber defense and artificial intelligence, both increasingly critical domains in modern military strategy, could also be on the table for future collaboration. Vietnamese officials have been quick to emphasize that their nation's long-standing policy of independence and non-alignment remains intact. However, regional analysts and observers harbor concerns that the lines separating economic cooperation from potential military alignment can be exceedingly thin and easily blurred over time. The worry is that increased economic interdependence and cooperation in strategically sensitive areas could gradually lead to a situation where Vietnam becomes a de facto, if not formally declared, ally or partner of China in certain security matters, even while attempting to maintain its existing relationships with Western powers. This delicate balancing act could prove increasingly challenging as geopolitical tensions in the region continue to escalate, potentially forcing Vietnam to make difficult choices about its long-term strategic orientation. U.S. and regional reactions. The announcement of Vietnam's agreement with China reportedly caught Washington, D.C. somewhat off guard, given the significant efforts the United States has made in recent years to cultivate a stronger relationship with Hanoi. Vietnam has been increasingly viewed by Washington as a crucial player in its Indo-Pacific strategy, aimed at countering China's growing influence in the region. This strategic alignment has manifested in various forms, including joint naval exercises between the U.S. and Vietnamese navies, high-level diplomatic visits and exchanges, and steadily growing trade agreements that have fostered closer economic ties. These developments had led many in Washington to believe that Vietnam was increasingly leaning towards a closer partnership with the United States as a hedge against China's assertiveness. However, this new deal with Beijing has prompted a reassessment of these assumptions within the U.S. administration and among strategic thinkers. Washington will likely be scrutinizing the details of the agreement closely, seeking to understand the full extent of Vietnam's commitments to China and the potential implications for the U.S.'s regional strategy. Meanwhile, countries in the region that are also wary of Chinese expansionism, such as the Philippines and Japan, are undoubtedly watching these developments with keen interest and perhaps a degree of apprehension. They will be looking to discern whether Vietnam's move represents a significant break in regional solidarity against China's more assertive actions, or simply a pragmatic maneuver by Hanoi to navigate the complex geopolitical landscape. By engaging with both major powers, the long-term consequences of this development for regional alliances and power dynamics remain to be seen. Economic promises and pitfalls. The leadership in Vietnam is likely emphasizing the potential economic benefits of closer ties with China to justify the recent agreement. These benefits could include the creation of new jobs through Chinese-funded projects, the modernization of Vietnam's often outdated transit systems with Chinese infrastructure investment, and the infusion of capital and technology to drive digital innovation across various sectors of the Vietnamese economy. The promise of significant economic growth and development is a powerful motivator for any nation, and Vietnam is no exception in its desire to improve the living standards of its citizens and further integrate into the global economy. However, the track record of Chinese investment in other countries has often revealed potential pitfalls that Vietnam must carefully consider. These include the risk of falling into a state of debt dependency on China, where large loans for infrastructure projects could become difficult to repay, potentially leading to the loss of control over strategic national assets. Furthermore, Chinese investment has sometimes been associated with a lack of transparency, environmental concerns, and the importation of Chinese labor, which can lead to public backlash and resentment within the recipient country. Indeed, Vietnamese citizens have previously staged protests against similar deals involving Chinese investment, reflecting underlying concerns about sovereignty and economic exploitation. The question remains whether this latest acceptance of a significant Chinese offer will spark similar unrest and political opposition from within Vietnam, potentially undermining the intended economic benefits and creating new challenges for the government. The role of public opinion. Nationalism is a deeply ingrained and powerful force in Vietnam, shaped by centuries of struggle for independence and a strong sense of cultural identity. This nationalistic sentiment is often intertwined with a historical wariness, if not outright suspicion, of its large northern neighbor, China. Anti-China sentiment remains widespread among the Vietnamese population, cutting across generations but often particularly strong among younger Vietnamese who are increasingly aware of China's growing assertiveness in the region and historical grievances. This underlying public opinion presents a significant challenge for the Vietnamese government as it seeks to forge closer ties with Beijing. The crucial question is whether the Vietnamese public will accept this apparent shift towards greater cooperation with a nation that is still widely perceived as a historical adversary and a potential threat to Vietnam's sovereignty in the South China Sea. The government will need to carefully manage public perception and articulate a clear rationale for this policy shift, emphasizing the potential economic benefits and downplaying any perceived concessions on national interests. However, there is a real risk that this move could ignite public demonstrations, fuel cyber activism expressing discontent online, and potentially lead to broader political pushback from various segments of Vietnamese society who may view closer ties with China as a betrayal of national pride and historical memory. The government in Hanoi is therefore walking a delicate tightrope, balancing the perceived need for economic and strategic engagement with China against the deeply held nationalistic sentiments and historical consciousness of its people. A new ASEAN dynamic. Vietnam's recent decision to accept a significant offer from China, even if framed as pragmatic cooperation, is sending noticeable tremors through the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. The 10-member bloc has long sought to maintain a unified stance on regional issues, particularly in its dealings with major external powers like China. However, the reality is that individual ASEAN member states have diverse national interests and varying degrees of alignment with Beijing. Some nations, such as Cambodia and Laos, have already established themselves as close partners and recipients of significant investment from China, often tilting the balance within ASEAN in Beijing's favor. Now, with Vietnam, a historically vocal critic of China's assertiveness in the South China Sea, seemingly moving towards closer cooperation, the internal dynamics of ASEAN are likely to undergo further significant shifts. The question arises whether Cambodia, Laos, and now Vietnam might form a more pronounced China-friendly core within ASEAN, potentially influencing the bloc's overall approach to Beijing on key issues. This could create further divisions within the organization, potentially straining relationships with other member states like Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia, which have their own complex and often nuanced relationships with China and may view Vietnam's move with concern. The unity of Southeast Asia, often touted as a key factor in the region's stability and its ability to navigate great power competition, is undoubtedly under strain. Competing visions for the region's future are emerging, with Vietnam now playing a more ambiguous but potentially crucial role in shaping the evolving geopolitical landscape of Southeast Asia and the overall cohesion of the ASEAN bloc. What happens next? Vietnam's acceptance of China's offer is more than a bilateral agreement. It's a marker of a new era. An era where traditional alliances blur, where history is overshadowed by opportunity. Vietnam stands at a crossroads. Will it become a bridge between rival powers, or will it be pulled into a web of dependence? The world watches not just what Vietnam does next, but how it balances the weight of the past with the gravity of the future. Vietnam accepted China's offer, but the cost, the consequence, and the path forward remain uncertain. In geopolitics, decisions are rarely final. They echo, ripple, and evolve. Thank you for watching. If you found this analysis insightful and thought-provoking, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment with your opinions, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of critical global events. Your engagement helps us bring you more content like this. The future is unfolding before our eyes. Stay informed. Stay vigilant.